Riley Green has a way of making you feel something. The award-winning country music artist made a comeback to the stage shortly after performing a moving duet of Don't Mind If I Do with Ella Langley on The Voice, only with his guitar this time. Host Carson Daly said amazing after Green sang the last line of his lovely tragic song Jesus Saves for the studio crowd and viewers at home during The Voice's Season 28 live finale in December 2025. Equipped with an acoustic guitar and illuminated by warm stage lights, Green used his beautiful country vocals to narrate the tale of a man who was struggling. Like many live performances on The Voice, Green dazzled with his clean tone and natural narrative while showcasing his raw vocal force. Green used incredibly potent lyrics to tell the tale of a person whose life had fallen apart, with each line and matching refrain. In the opening chorus, "My daddy left for another woman, moved off to LA/my mama fought hard against that cancer. She died when I was 8/I finished school. My country shipped me off to war/when I came home. My whole world didn't love me anymore." The way Green performs the lyrics during the chorus is enough to make you cry. I only jot down Jesus Saves because it's difficult to see anything when driving past. I can't fit that on a sign. Viewers were both moved and frozen by Green's performance. "When I hear this, brother, I come to a complete stop. Powerful song deep with beautiful emotion." One fan commented on a video of Green on the Voice stage, while another said, "This song hits you right in the heart." "This was awesome, I got lost in the song for a bit," exclaimed another. "What a voice." The singer-songwriter shared the backstory of the iconic song during a 2025 interview on The Zach Sang Show. "It's about a guy on the side of the road in Nashville, Tennessee, a homeless guy, and it tells his story as a U.S. Army veteran," Green said. "It sort of goes through everything that may occur in his life and put him in that predicament. I thought the message of that was really good. It was, you don't really know what somebody's been through." Green created Jesus Saves to help people think more profoundly about their own personal empathy. "You're always quick to judge when you see somebody in that situation," he said. "And I try to think of things that, maybe if they happen to you, you might be in that same situation." Riley Green stood by himself in the silent backstage hallway, the audience's faint murmur floating through the walls like a far-off sea. The smooth floor was bathed in a pale glow as the lights overhead hummed quietly. He had nothing in his hands. No notes, no guitar, just a silence that seemed heavier than anything he could hold. He shut his eyes. Before a performance, there are times when everything seems to slow down and time seems to stand still, allowing memories to creep in. Riley didn't associate those experiences with bright stages or celebrity. They were heavier, quieter, and simpler. A tiny church. Decades of prayer have smoothed the wooden pews. As she sang, "Jesus Saves," his grandmother's gentle but steady voice rose above the assembly. He had never realized the power of music until that moment. Not impressive, not amuse, however, heal. The silence was broken by a voice. "You're up next, Riley." Despite the fact that the crew member had already turned away, he nodded. His heart began to beat more deeply and steadily, like a drum beckoning him on. This performance wasn't your typical one. It was more than just a tune. This was not like anything else. Something private. The audience plunged into an almost hallowed silence as the stage lights went down. Even before a note was sung, the coaches felt something different and leaned forward a little. Curiosity and something gentler took the place of the typical buzz of enthusiasm. Expectation. Riley moved into the illumination. Not a big introduction. No dramatic flair. Just a man entering a moment. He made a small adjustment to the microphone, touching it with his fingertips as though to ground himself. He briefly glanced out into the audience, but not directly at them. He seemed to be looking for something more profound, or perhaps someone. Then he spoke in a calm, low voice. "This song isn't about me. It's about the folks that supported me when I didn't know how to do it on my own." A pause. "My grandmother used to sing it. And I suppose I'm simply attempting to sing it as she did tonight." Then there was silence. The kind of silence that holds its breath, not the awkward kind. The initial note was quiet, not much more than a whisper. "Jesus Saves." It wasn't flawless, it lacked polish, and it was devastating because of it. There was something unreserved and raw about his voice. It shook just enough to feel authentic, as if each word carried weight. No runs, no vocal gymnastics, no attempt to impress. Just be truthful. And for some reason, that was stronger than everything else. The space seemed to get smaller as the melody developed. The intense stage lights softened, as though they were also listening, and they no longer felt harsh. Riley didn't do much. He was not required to. His voice, the way he closed his eyes on specific lines, and the slight tightness of his jaw when the lyrics struck too close to home, were all signs of every emotion. During the darkest night, whisper it softly. The words hung in the air, brittle but unbreakable. A coach blinked rapidly, as though the sharp sting of tears had taken him by surprise. Another leaned back and exhaled softly, their often self-assured manner giving way to something more subdued and humane. Since this was no longer a performance, it was an admission. A woman with sparkling eyes linked her hands together somewhere in the audience. Perhaps she was reminded of a deceased person by the song. Perhaps it reminded her of something she hadn't thought about in a long time. This kind of music accomplishes that. It does more than just play. It gets there. As Riley entered the next verse, his voice became a little more powerful, yet it never lost its vulnerability. It hurt more because of the strength, if anything. Like someone who, after suppressing something for too long, musters the bravery to speak. Through every grief, through every setback, his voice broke, just a little bit. However, it was sufficient, enough to permeate the whole space. He continued. He did not provide an apology. He bent over it, and in some way, that increased the impact of the occasion. Crew members who had witnessed hundreds of performances remained motionless backstage, no longer chatting as normal. The change in the atmosphere and the subdued intensity that enveloped each note were palpable even to them. This was more than just skill. This was accurate. Riley opened his eyes as the song approached its last chorus, and he turned to face the audience for the first time. Not because of them, not over them, at them. He seemed to be sharing something that he was no longer able to bear on his own. Jesus saves. The words weren't a whisper this time. They were a proclamation. Not loud though. Not too much. Just certain. Like a breath exhaled after being held for too long, the music gradually vanished. The final note lingered in the atmosphere. Then there was silence. True quiet. The kind that only occurs when individuals are unsure of how to react. When they're still figuring out what they just experienced. Riley's hands were now stable as he lowered his head a little. Time appeared to pause for a brief while. Then someone started clapping from someplace in the throng. Gently. Then one more, and one more. Until everyone in the room gave a standing ovation that was profoundly, overwhelmingly sincere, but neither explosive nor chaotic. The coaches stood as well, but their facial expressions were different. No criticism right away. No hurried enthusiasm. Just be respectful. A hand was placed over their heart by one of them. Another gave a long shake of their head, as though they were searching for the perfect words, but were aware that none could adequately describe what had just transpired. Because how can you evaluate something like that? How can a moment that isn't about technique be scored? But what about reality? Riley's lips curled into a little, almost startled smile as he looked up. It's the kind of smile that comes from release, not the kind that looks for acceptance. As if he had brought something onto the stage. Lastly, put it down. His voice was weaker than previously when he did speak. I'm grateful. Only 2 words. However, they carried everything. Later, people whispered to each other as the lights went down and the throng started to disperse. It was about how the song made them feel, not about vocal runs or stage presence. Some were unable to adequately describe it. Some didn't attempt it, because sometimes it's not appropriate to analyze the most impactful moments. They are intended to be experienced. Riley leaned against the wall backstage once more and let out a deep breath. Even though the crowd's volume level had increased, it still seemed far away. He took his phone out, briefly scrolled, and then came to a halt. A picture, old and a little faded. Sitting on a porch, his grandmother is grinning at something that is slightly out of view. He gazed at it for a long moment.